referred me to you. It was Carlene, right?
Carlene, yeah.
Yeah. She sent me your Instagram page and I was like, whoa, just all the different colors and patterns. And it was just very, very cool. And yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get started painting bodies?
Painting bodies. Well, it started on myself. It kind of was a creative exploration. Back when I was a late teenager, so around that 18 years old vibe. And I'll start by saying, just to kind of rewind a little bit, because when people ask me, like, where did this start? Like, the more that I kind of reflect on life and where life has brought me, I feel like it starts way earlier than we even think. And I grew up in Germany. I'm half
Oh,
German. My
wow.
mom's German, and lived in a beautiful little German village and had a great childhood of nature. And we lived next to this little farm. So I was around animals and, you know, running through sprinklers naked, like, very free childhood. And yeah, we grew up there. And when I turned 13, we moved to the States. And of all states, we moved to the Midwest, and that was in Indiana. And it was quite a kind of a culture shock. Like, I had little bits of American culture because I had American friends in Germany as well. But the transition was quite harsh for me. Just one, being at the age of 13, right? You're entering that early stage of womanhood. And it felt to me like this was the time where I was first exposed to this idea of like fitting in and feeling like different, or like you had to wear certain clothes to like feel cool. Like these, I feel like a lot of people go through this, and not having like a group of friends that I grew up with to like be my little safe crew.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I bring that up is because I feel this is related to, self-expression and how at home we feel in ourselves and how much we allow ourselves to be free in ourselves. And after, those formative years of conforming in a way, like kind of trying to fit in, there's a lot of unraveling that we have to do to kind of hear ourselves again and like really get down to the bottom of like, who am I without all of these pressures and things. So
Mm-hmm.
around the age of 18 is when, I feel like when I was in it, I didn't really realize it was kind of a rock bottom, like one phase of a rock bottom, because I was, in a toxic relationship. I was drinking, I was partying, but also, doing school and, striving for being good at academics and all these things that come with being in high school. And so anyways, I'll get to the point.
This is
I
great.
my in this relationship, things usually, our downfalls are paired with our greatest gifts, right? Like our something that feels really crunchy and dark often is paired with something that is like the jewel. And for me, this was the introduction to psychedelics, because the very first time that I ever uh, discovered mushrooms and psilocybin was kind of this big aha moment for me. And it literally, I think, was the first domino to go down that like created a whole ripple effect. And what that looked like for me was a reconnection to nature, and just, it's almost like a windshield wiper went off. Like, we live in our worlds, we're going about our days, and everything is just the way that it is, right? So I felt like psychedelics and LSD as well, by the way. I want to pair those two together. They kind of reset my lens to understand the miraculous magic that is all around and through the form of nature, and how it's not that casual to be alive in a human body, and really just it put into perspective of how beautiful it is to be alive in a human body, how lucky I was to be alive and to be able to feel and sense and hear and taste all these sensation pieces that come with being alive. They just were so in my face and at the forefront that any negative narrative that I had about myself, where I kind of was able to see how much pressure and critique and negative self-talk I had, wanting to be different than I was and trying to be something that I wasn't, this voice was pushed to the forefront, and I literally remember just crying and feeling so apologetic to my body and to like my being. Sorry, I'm getting like emotional just talking about it. But yeah, so it just, I think that really awakened a piece in me that was like, wow, how are we just, going about our days, following these very dull regimens and striving for these very surface level things, when magic is all around and it's such a gift to be alive, and holy shit, we are living miracles. And it's interesting that that's when I started painting on myself and getting more into art again. I was kind of lone wolfing it, where I would just go into these little tunnels in my room and make art. And one day I was putting eyeliner on and I just kind of went whoop, and then all of a sudden there's a tree on my face. And this is also a time with like creative portraits where, I think it was right when the MacBook came out and they had the photo booth setting. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they had all the cool effects, and you could go mirror effect. And I just, honestly, this was just the the beginning of everything, where I would just paint myself fully and just kind of trip out on the cool features of being able to capture myself in these different expressions. And what that did was it helped me to just see myself and to explore myself and to have that time of self-reflection as well, and to ask these deeper questions of existence. And yeah, that's literally how it started. And then I would share it. This is right when Facebook kind of was coming on, or where I worked up the courage to actually share my art online. And, people were either like, whoa, this is so cool, and like, holy shit. Or people would be like, oh my God, like, this is so embarrassing. What are you doing? So there were both voices of people that appreciated it and people that were obviously being haters. So working through that. And then I was able to, share the love by, friends were like, oh, like, this is so cool. Like, would you ever paint me? Or going to festivals where, festival culture where art and music and expression is celebrated. That was also a big gateway to seeing a world much more expansive than what I was used to. And yeah, that kind of is how it started rolling, just to kind of coming back to myself after many years of trying to fit in. And this was kind of the full gateway of seeing myself in a new way. and playing and having fun and all that. So um I can keep going with, because that was like the early it's such a long story I'm trying to condense, but that is the gist of the beginnings. um do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to, you shared a lot, and I think a lot of people can relate with feeling that way. I definitely relate with feeling that way. I moved around a lot, so I also lacked that, you were saying, that little crew tribe that sticks with you. Kind of just learned to befriend people everywhere along the way. And so, yeah, and just, that darkness and having something beautiful come out of it, come out of all that pain and suffering. I resonate with that too. And the psychedelics, yes. It makes me think of, have you seen that video? I think it's from the 60s. It's black and white, from a housewife that is trying LSD for the first time. And
Oh, wow.
her therapist is there administering, and he's like, oh, we're about to administer, whatever. And he gives her the water, and she's drinking the water. And then some time passes. He's like, what do you see? And she's like, it's right there. You don't see it? And then he's like, no, explain it to me. She's like, I just can't. I just couldn't. Like, she was just like, what is wrong with you? How do you not see this? And the way that it really does, like you said, the windshield wiper, it just kind of it opens your third eye, you could say. It opens your awareness to things that you were completely oblivious to before, but were always right there in front of you.
Yeah.
And I can see with the painting, it may be things that in those states you can see. And so your painting reminds me of, like, you're taking those things out from that state and bringing them into this plane, this dimension where people can interact with it.
Yeah.
So, but keep going, whatever you want to share.
Yeah. Well, and it just, yeah, the intricacies and the infinite nature that you start to see when your brain isn't so narrow-minded in a way. You see how everything goes so deep, and how everything is energetic and how it is all connected. We've heard, we if you've been there, it's really hard to put to words. I love that you just shared that little piece of this woman who's like, I can't even verbalize this because it's so beyond. And yeah, back to like our bodies and learning more about how we are vibrational beings, and how we're not really solid, we're moving energy. So it's almost like the paint is able to kind of capture this. I call it flowedelic. It's very it comes to life. It's moving and very oriented to, yeah, just the flow of nature, and how one pattern leads to the next. Each dot, each line, they are signatures of a moment. And when people often ask me, do you see a design first and then you just trace it? It's like sometimes yes-ish, but it's more about the process and being present and really sinking into the moment and trusting that this ever unfolding pattern is going to come to life if you just give it enough intention and attention. So it really, art is such a big teacher. And I feel like there's a lot of nuggets that art can, just the process itself can teach us about life.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I feel like once I started getting into it for myself and sharing it with others, I think that's when a lot more light bulbs were coming on of how powerful this art practice can be. One being, the connection aspect. You're sitting intimately with another person. It's very vulnerable to allow someone to, paint on your face and on your body, because, it's how we express ourselves to the outer world. But when you allow and trust each other and someone lets you in on their temple space, it's amazing. And to just share in that aliveness, we're also connected in the sense that we have beating hearts. We're in this human experience together, and to just sit and acknowledge and breathe together and allow a creative art piece to come to life. It's really special. And yeah, the more I started doing it, the more I felt the feedback loop of, wow, there's something more happening on an energetic level than meets the surface. Like, yes, this is cool. Then wow, the artistry, and also to sync up together and have a moment of just acknowledgement of the beauty of life. Like, that's also a big piece of it. Yeah.
How does that translate into a retreat space? Because you've done a retreat space now.
Mm-hmm. I have,
right?
Yeah.
Like the spiritual aspect and the ceremonial aspect of painting in a group.
Yeah. So I've done a couple, some of my own workshops, and then there's actually 2 ways it's shown up in retreats, which I'm happy to share about. The first one was a smaller container with about 12 women. And this was beautiful because the paint came in kind of mid journey, where a lot of activations were happening, a lot of trauma releasing, expression, dancing, all these different workshops that are working on an internal level. And then I came in and painted each woman individually and had like a little micro session with each woman. And to me, obviously I've been at this for a while. So my love language is to just reflect beauty to the person I'm with, and to hold a beautiful grounding space where someone can feel safe and just relax into the beingness, and to receive. It's like you are able to just sit and receive and be you. You're perfect. Just let me handle it. I'll do it. And for me, it's similar to, like, every day we have this opportunity to write the story of who we are and who we are becoming. So similar to the snake, like there's a shedding of a skin, and then we step into a new wave of expression. So in retreats, when there's all these beautiful activations happening and these downloads, and there's a lot of information coming in and energy moving, I see the painting as a way, as like a symbolic artistic ritual to anchor those codes in, and to have a space to just allow the integration process to take place. And then when you're in the when you're all painted up and, they see their reflection, they're like, oh my God, like, this is beautiful. That's my favorite part, by the way, the reveal. And then to just be in that new frequency. And then also there's a photography piece, right? Because body paint is impermanent. So it's going to have to wash off, similar to our bodies. We aren't going to be here forever. It's all temporary. So it's another reminder of that. But we do have photography, and that is powerful because you get to have these little time capsules of this memory that holds a frequency that you can reflect on, and then, remember that whatever that represents to you, a state of being. Perhaps there's just an affirmation that comes with those images of yourself that you can then look back at and just remember who the fuck you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then so
Yes.
that's one of the ways. And then the second one, because obviously I wish I had 8 arms and could just paint many people. But I started this thing called Self-Adornment, where when, it's like imagine a big banquet table, and it's set kind of like an altar, and everyone has their mirrors. And we've got supplies, the paints, the brushes, or the wands, as I like to call them. And this offers an opportunity for everyone to have that self-reflective moment in the mirror with themselves and drop into an intention, and also just the presence of, how check in, like, how is my self-talk? What are the stories that I say about myself when I see my reflection? And to be with that and be super present with that. And then allow the paint, to be encoded with these new stories. And, different shapes have different meanings. There's colors, all the different colors are also fused with different meaning. And really, at the end of the day, it's a place where the child self, like our inner child, and our higher self get to come together. And we're that bridge. So, I love when people just allow themselves to play and explore and create, and just fuck around and find out and see what happens without a judgment, and to really watch that judgment voice, because it's a sneaky one and we can get in there. Even I myself, when I first start, I'm like, oh, like, is this gonna look okay? Or, whatever the voice is, it doesn't matter. You keep going, you let it unfold, you let whatever message wants to come through. And yeah, there's all kinds of takeaways that people have shared at the end. So those are the two formats that I've experimented with so far. Either me painting on each person, or the Self-Adornment, where each person is painting on themselves.
I want to come back to the takeaways because I want to know what people said. But first, wow, I'm amazed at how we can find everything as a reflection, and everything can be used as a tool to help us bring more awareness into our lives, to help us grow, to help us see. And I loved so many things about what you said, just like using the paint to encode this new idea or this new mantra, the way we're communicating to ourselves about ourselves. I also love the idea, like when you said putting the mirror and having people paint, the first thing I thought about was, I'm not a painter. It's going to suck. I'm going to make my face look like a big chaos jumble. Or maybe I'm wondering like, oh, she probably paints better than me. I'm looking at her face. But there are so many lessons in that, and also lots of people who paint, even, Bob Ross will tell you, anybody can paint. Everybody can paint. Or would have told you when he was alive.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just going slow, being there, like you were saying, just being present. And I was imagining myself as you were talking about the paint, of not worrying about what it's going to look like, but just affirming those words of love, encouragement, empowerment, all the things that I wanted to bring into my life as I'm moving the brush or the wand, the stroke into whatever it is, and allowing it to unfold. So many things about what you said. I was like, yes, yes. And I would love to experience that. I've never had an urge to paint my face, but that sounds like a very different way to approach it.
Yeah. Well, and it's beautiful too because, we are reflections of nature, and our proportions, the way that the human body is designed is already perfect. So, and it's like you're already starting from like a perfect canvas. And when you just trace what's already there, because we are already a perfect canvas and we're just kind of tracing what is there and what we're present with. I like to kind of break it down with simple shapes, dots, lines, colors, and usually those building blocks of the structure kind of allow for like a template for people then to do their own improv on, because everyone does have their own unique style and everyone's going to express themselves differently. So I try not to be too, this is how you do it, because the point is to find your own unique expression and allow that to come through naturally. So it is very exploratory. And what you said, not everyone considers themselves an artist, and not everyone is like stoked about painting their face all the time. And that's totally great, because either way, you're going to get some kind of medicine out of it. And at the end of the day, it's really just allowing yourself to play and explore and tap into that child self. But also, I've seen some amazing creative paintings come through and expressions that, tap into these different archetypes as well. Like it doesn't, it the way that it comes through is just very expansive. You never know what you're going to get. Like it could be like a Viking warrior vibe, or something more elegant and sophisticated or playful. And that's also fun too, because we get to tap into these different archetypes of whatever wants to be expressed. Yeah. So I personally just enjoy to see how everyone has their own natural take on it. Um, and like I said, the inner talk is really a big part of why we do this, because it's going to show you something. It's going to show you maybe if you're being too hard on yourself, or if you're being a perfectionist, or all these different things that can be revealed in the mirror at Soul Adornment.
Soul Adornment. I like that. Is that the name of your methodology?
That is what it has come to be. And, also, I really feel like a big piece I want to just touch on, because obviously I did not invent body painting. Body painting has been around for a very, very long time. It's, probably the first, next to like cave paintings, it's the first human art form. So just keeping that in mind. And I kind of, once I was deep in the vortex of exploring this art, later down the line, I started doing more research on the history of body paint, and just seeing how it is an art form that has shown up time after time in all of the continents have some kind of representation of body art or body adornment with paint or, tattoos. This is something that is so deeply rooted into the human experience and our collective human lineage, that I feel like there's something that we're tapping into on a deeper level when we engage in this art form. And, to be clear, we're not taking patterns from different tribes and emulating them. There is an awareness and attention towards, not taking and appropriating from other cultures. It is about tapping into the artist and being inventive and in the flow with that cosmic creator self. I just always have to preface that because there's a lot to that as well, honoring roots of different cultures and honoring, where specific patterns come from. But there's a lot of inspiration of knowing that this art form goes super far back and is what unites us as a human tribe. And I really just love that, because I think that's part of my mission here on Earth, just through this art form, is creating more unity and bringing people together and understanding that we are a part of like one big collective human tribe, no matter how we look, no matter what shape we are, what size we are, what planet we're from. Like, we are in this human body, and that is something that unites us all. Just had to say that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And for the preface of appropriation versus, just doing something that really doesn't belong to anybody, but belongs to us all, and finding your own voice within a tool that can be used by everyone.
Exactly.
Yes. And I think about the more mainstream version of painting is makeup. Right. And even though it might have like, you can have your ideas about makeup. Everybody has their ideas about makeup. But it is a form of painting the face. And some of it is to hide. Some of it is to enhance. Some of it is to beautify. Or some of it is just like, I love wearing eyeliner. I just like the feel of it. I like the look of it. I'm not necessarily like like beat your face kind of makeup, but I love like drawing lines and how it changes your face and how it makes me feel inside. And sometimes just, drawing a line above the eye makes me feel more empowered, or I feel like I'm able to take on this different persona that is also me, but it's a me that comes out and comes alive when this element is present. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's also the context and like back to the power of words, even the word makeup or cover up. There's something in that, even just the name of that kind of insinuates that we are covering and hiding or making up for something, but we're not making up for anything. It really comes back down to that intention of what you just said. Like, you feel good when you're adding a little sparkle or a little adornment to yourself. And the word itself, adornment, is, you can even feel the root of adore in the word. To adore something, to admire, to have reverence for. And then adornment has kind of like the ornament, right? Where you're decorating with love. I kind of break adornment down as to decorate with love. And when we see ourselves as the sacred temple and see our bodies as this home where we get to cherish it and be good to it and love it, the act of self-adornment is really just this artistic way to express this love and to give it attention and reflecting that beauty back to the self.
And when you were talking about shapes and sizes and colors and all the different ways in which we show up as human beings. The paint, and especially if like you do a full body paint, you almost can't tell what's underneath. And so the only thing there is a human form.
Exactly.
And I really like that aspect of, like, if you were to have a group of people and they were fully painted from top to bottom, and in that way we can see the ways in which we are the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And something I like to, just give attention to during the process is to feed the senses. We've got music going, we've got, obviously there's that tactile touch piece where you're feeling the sensations of the brush on your skin. Having good, pleasant smells in the air, having some snacks, it's a very sensory experience because you want to like heighten all of the earthly delights and just experience what it is to be in this body.
Yeah. I love that, earthly delights.
Yeah, and it's fun to,
making me think of Turkish delights. Very different. It has nothing to do with that, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah. And it's fun to just do it in community too. There's different flavors. The one-on-one sessions that I do, separate from retreats. It's a very intimate one-on-one container. And then when you're like with everyone, there's that communal aspect, that kind of celebratory, like, yes, there could be things you mentioned earlier that, you could come up against certain like noticing parts of ourselves that compare to others, or like looking over and being like, oh, what are they doing? So it might be like a little harder to just like focus on yourself, but that's medicine too. That is something to just be aware of like, how much do we kind of look outside of ourselves for validation, or how much can we tune into ourselves to guide and trust in our own inner knowing and intuition, and just trust that it's gonna, it will be what it will be, and it's gonna be beautiful, and it's temporary, it's impermanent, and it's perfect the way it is. Like, how can we drop into that acceptance on a core level? And it's a practice, it's not like doing this once is gonna, I mean, it could, but it's that's why I keep coming back to it, because it is a practice. It is something that you can repeatedly come back to just check in with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it does get easier.
Have you ever had people paint on each other?
I feel like that's coming. Yeah. I've done it with another. I've painted a friend while they're painting me simultaneously, which is a trip. A little hard concentration. Like, if you're not well practiced, it might be challenging, but I think that is another iteration, like couples or partners, or just like with another person. That's like why I feel this is so fun and expansive, because you can get creative with the format, and there's a lot of different exercises you can do. I feel like I'm just honestly getting started, and there's a lot of potential depending on what the intention is. Maybe there's a theme within the retreat of interrelating, and the partners like pairing up would be perfect for that, because you can really get a lot of medicine out of witnessing someone and being a safe space and practicing being that safe witnessing person, while also reflecting love to another. I mean, it's a lovely cycle where everyone involved can receive and give through it all.
Yeah. Have you seen that video? I watch a lot of videos. I'm noticing because I'm always like, have you seen that video? Have you seen that video where there's a sketch artist and he's given a group of strangers, women, who first they sit down on the couch and they describe themselves to him and he draws them. And then they pair some of these women together and they'll bring in another woman. So let's say that person A described herself. He drew her. Person A meets person B. So then they have person B sit on the couch and he tells me, and the artist says, okay, now describe to me person A. And so you hear, you see the two different sketches of how the woman described herself and what that looks like, and how the woman was described by someone else who experienced her and what that looks like.
Wow.
Have you seen that video?
I haven't, but I can imagine that was really powerful.
Ooh. The ones where they described themselves, they looked, more sad, rough. And then the ones where they were being described by someone else, it was brighter and softer and just very different.
Yeah. We're so hard on ourselves. We're so, obviously everyone's different on whatever level they're on, but man, that it's very telling, that experiment of how we see ourselves versus how the world sees us, and how our inner dialogue shapes our self-image. And to really need to be present with that and be careful of what stories we're feeding ourselves, because we get fed all these lies constantly on media and through movies, through all this input from the things that we watch that have this undertone of, oh, you need this to feel better, or you need this to look better. And it's just, to fuel the capitalistic machine and to sell more and fuel that system. So yeah, it's our own responsibility to keep an eye on what we are telling ourselves.
Definitely.
And
so let's talk about well, I wanted to ask you about your time with Alex and Allison Gray and how that has shaped the way that you approach art.
That's okay. Yeah, we kind of skipped that part earlier when I was sharing about my journey, because later on, when I was coming into my inner knowing of I'm an artist and really claiming my artist self, and I dropped a lot of friends and groups and people that no longer resonated because it was not focused on healthy decisions and what I wanted for my life. After I realized, okay, I literally have infinite potentiality within me. What am I going to do with this life? And the life of an artist just really felt like my true purpose. So once I claimed this and put myself in positions and places that and around people who inspired that as well, and I met my partner, who I'm still with, 14 years ago. We met right in this juncture of claiming my inner artist, and he's a musician. So I would go on tour with him and his band, and this is where I started noticing that this thing called live painting was happening at festivals, where artists would set up in the crowd and paint inspired by the music and the environment. And I was just so blown away and so inspired. And this one festival we came to in the middle of Ohio, there was a sea of like 80 artists set up in the crowd. And it was something that changed my life forever, because I realized that there's this artist tribe out there, and painting visions, from, it's known as like visionary art, like the visionary art scene these days, where you're painting, bringing life to visions that are kind of from the unseen realms. Maybe it's energetics, like what we were talking about, where, it looks like a tree, but really the tree has an auric field around it. So there's artists that are like painting this and like really connecting to the spirit of creation. That's how I interpret it, at least. And, something happens, or something I noticed that happens once I started to really claim my inner artist and claim my co-creatorship with the universe. Things start to happen. Things start to fall into place at the right time. Synchronicities start to happen more frequently. And you realize, oh my gosh, maybe life is happening for me and not to me. And at this festival, I met another artist who was about my age, and she was telling me about a visionary art temple that was being built in upstate New York, aka the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, which is essentially this beautiful place in New York founded by Alex Grey and Allison Grey. And they're these two legendary living artists. And they've created this hub where artists can come together. And essentially it's like it is a church, but as spiritual, like art as its spiritual practice. So celebrating art as the common denominator between all world religions, and like acknowledging that our connection to spirit is very much interconnected with how we express through our art. So that hit hard to me. I was like, wow, that feels aligned. Like I'm like, is this like a cult or what is this? Like I gotta go check it out. And it was, it's open to the public, like people from all over the world, like come to this place as a pilgrimage spot because, both of them in their own right are master artists. And Alex Grey in particular has really done an amazing job depicting these other realms that are grounded in like human physiology. He has mastered depicting the human body and all of its skeletal systems, the endocrine system, the muscular system. Like he really like breaks it down of like, what is this human flesh suit? And also depicts the energetics, the chakra systems, the meridian points. And because he's been able to express this through the paintings, so many people have resonated with it because it's universal. It's like what people are seeing and experiencing on an energetic level. So that's kind of, I feel, one of the big reasons why people are, swarm there, feel attracted to the art. They're like, oh, this guy like is seeing what I'm seeing. And like his wife as well, Allison, she depicts these rainbow spectral fields of energy that, I mean, you got to see it. Words can't really do it. So I ended up moving there and tested it out for 3 weeks, a 3-week trial to see, if we gelled. And it ended up becoming my home for the next 6 years because it just felt so like I wanted to help a bigger vision that was going to help humanity, because I really noticed how people's lives were changed by coming into contact with this artwork and the community and the open space to discuss psychedelic experiences. Because, as I mentioned, psychedelics played a massive role in my self-development, and it changed my life for the better. So to find others who also had those experiences felt like home. And I was able to connect with artists from all over the world, and also just continue to develop my own artistic voice. And we would host full moon gatherings every month. So, people from all over would come. We'd celebrate with music, have live painters, and, Reiki and tarot readers, and I would do the body paint. And through this monthly check-in, which was aligned, with the moon cycle, every full moon, I was able to practice my chops and get good at it, and really see a trend, like see this overarching effect and impact that it had on people that would come through. And every time they looked into the mirror and had this like burst of like, oh my God, like, wow, I love this. It was like, this feels like my why. I want people to see themselves in the excitement and feel good about themselves and receive love. People even just commenting on there like, wow, you look so amazing. That's like, it feels good. So it really helped deepen my connection to like, what kind of service is this giving to people. And one final thought on this, just because, how did Alex and Allison and living at 𝗕𝗧 impact my artist journey, is really because it gave more context to how art can be a spiritual practice, and how art is essentially our unique channel connecting to the divine. And when we allow ourselves to get out of the way and put our ego to the side and just like let it flow through, then that's it. I mean, it feels so good to be in flow state and to be a conduit for something to move through us, and ultimately be a service to the world. And I felt like, even though that was what was happening before, like I think it was happening naturally, whether I had that awareness or not, it created more context for the importance of the intention, and like to have, like, what is the prayer behind the art that gives the art the life, instead of just like it's like an arrow where you're like, this is where my heart is going to aim. Like, this is my intention to send love into this other being, to reflect beauty, to be a mirror of the miracle that it is to be alive, and then allow the art to do the rest, because you also don't want to try too hard. You just got to let it let it flow.
Let it flow.
But it definitely did impact me in that way.
Wow, what a journey. Sounds like an amazing journey.
Truly.
Oh, I feel like I could talk to you about this forever, but I'm just going to ask you one more question. What message would you like to share with the retreat community?
The message. Well, I want to say thank you. I think just thank you to everyone that is showing up to give their gifts, to share the lessons that they've learned along the way, and giving that forward to others who are, seeking support and healing and on their own journey. We're all just walking each other home, as the saying goes. And to say that we're all unique pieces in this giant puzzle, And I'm really grateful for spaces like this and you, Crystal, for kind of weaving us together, because I feel like everyone is walking their own unique path and has collected all of the gems along the way to then share with the collective. And I think that's truly what we're here to do, is to just come into our truth and to really share and express like what we have to offer in whatever phase we are in. And then all the pieces just like lock in together. So it would be an honor to anyone that feels resonant to this work or wants to dive deeper into body paint, adornment, and, you know, just connect as human beings. You know, we all have these lovely codes to share with each other and cross pollinate. And I am so here for it. I feel like this is how the new earth is going to be built. And this is the healing that the world needs. And the more that we can come together, the more of a ripple effect we can create. And I'm here for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're talking and my heart's like, yes. Thank you so much. Truly. What a lovely time chatting with you.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, all the technical difficulties, I feel like we just moving right through them. I love it.